Welcome to Amplifying Recruitment. A few months ago, I was joined on the podcast by Cosmo Currey. He spoke about the 75% commission model they operate at Kaizen, and since then I've been bombarded by questions from recruiters asking me for more detail about the model. I've tried my best to answer them, but I thought what better way than to get the man back himself and he can answer some of your questions. Enjoy. Cosmo, welcome back to Amplifying Recruitment.
Thank you for having me, Jamie. Again.
For anyone that didn't listen to the first episode, just give me like a 90-second overview of Kaizen.
So Kaizen is a commission-only global recruitment platform specifically set up for 360-degree recruiters who source and onboard clients, candidates, and each recruiter takes up to 75% from each invoice for every placement they've made. And in year 2, that goes up to 77.5% commission.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know there was the uplift in year 2.
Yeah.
One of the questions I've had is like, do I have to be a technology like recruiter by background to join you guys?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely not. So whilst the brand is most well known in technology, we have clients across oil and gas, pharma, travel, banking, finance, real estate. You absolutely do not have to come from a technology background. You can sign whoever you want in any sector, in any geography around the world.
And then so the next question I've had a lot is, what do I get for the 25% that I relinquish, if you like? What do you get in return as a recruiter? What do you get in return for that 25% or 23% in year 2?
So on average, recruiters spend around 10 to 20 hours a week purely on administration, which of course means it's less time focused on making a placement. We want to remove that, but it's not simply a sense of we will just do your invoicing for you. There are multiple components to building a business. So that includes invoicing and finance, to your marketing, your brand, and posting that out there, driving traction to your website, your platform, your name, your legal support, IT. So something as simple as a systems update goes wrong and it completely knocks out a day or two. It's so frustrating. So that was the operational side of the business. But there's more to it. And this is the real kind of crux, I think, behind Kaizen, is obviously applicant tracking system is a key pillar here. We found that most applicant tracking systems were super slow, clunky. They were very KPI driven, constantly looking at what recruiters have done, checked in, sent out. That wasn't our model. That isn't our model. So we built our own. And so to date, we spent £250,000 on building the most awesome, bespoke, super fast applicant tracking system, which allows you to see any candidate anywhere in the world from anyone in the group at one time. The other piece, and this final piece, is access to the network that we've created. Now, the network presents, of course, colleagues around the world, but what does that mean from a monetary value? These are passive revenue streams that as a recruiter inside Kaizen you have access to, that the majority of them you do not have on your own. And so what we wanted to do is capitalize on that internal network. And probably the best thing for me to do is explain what these passive revenue streams are and then how they work.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because I think those things that I understand that you said here, like the finance, the legal, the marketing, the IT, the ATS, that's obviously has a monetary value. But yeah, I'd be really keen to explore that a bit more about how the network makes more money for me as a recruiter.
Great, and this is the real, this is really, I think, really exciting part. So across the globe, we are, as of today, with very little marketing or putting out there, 37 headhunters across 20 countries, 6 continents. Nearly everyone inside the business has been referred by somebody they know or somebody they've worked with. And what we realized was that we have, at any given time, a plethora of international roles for anyone to work on. So whilst we still look for 360-degree recruiters, so you are somebody who goes off and sources and signs on boards your own client book, there's also available roles to work on. So what that means when you're quiet, you have these roles you can go off, work on, and make money from. And when I say quiet, especially in those beginning months where you're building out your client base, that doesn't exist if you're a solo recruiter. You have what you have and that's it. Your second, conversely, is when you're busy. So I do a great job for you as my client. You come back to me and say, thank you. I've got 2 more roles. I need you to deliver by Thursday next week. And I go, okay, 2 roles. I've got to get you in 6 or 7 candidates shortlisted for this. That's, it's quite a bit of work with everything else I've got going on. At Van Kaizen, you have an army of recruiters behind you to help you. Your other route as a solo practitioner is you go off, you put out a job post, you bring in a recruiter, you pay them a salary, on the basis you've got this extra work coming in. Will that sustain? Does it drop? Then you're left with somebody. It's messy. So at Van Kaizen, you have the ability to go out to this network of super driven, really great guys and girls from around the world who will come back and deliver candidates for your role should you want it. The third part of passive income is if I sign a client in London and that client has an office in Hong Kong and they say, we'd like you to run the recruitment in Hong Kong. As much as my ego is like, yes, I want to do it, I don't have the network. I don't have the ability to service them. And that probably would have a knock-on effect to my relationship with them in London. Within Van Kaizen, we have recruiters in the localized area. So I would simply turn around to my colleague and say, this is my client. I'd love you to work with them. And from each placement that person makes and takes over that relationship in whichever geography in the world, I, as the person who signed them originally, will take a commission on each of those placements.
And will you just remind, because I think this is really important.
Yeah.
How many recruiters have you got in how many locations?
Yeah, so we are 37 recruiters across 20 countries, 6 continents, and everyone works the same way. There's no difference to someone who joined 6 years ago when the company was incorporated to tomorrow. It's a flat 75% of each invoice for every placement you make goes directly to you.
We're just talking about like what I get for the 25 and what I don't. Like, is LinkedIn recruiter licenses and accountancy fees and that kind of stuff, do I look after that myself or do you guys contribute?
It's a really good question. Actually, there are 2 areas that we do not cover. And there's a really good reason why you don't want the company you work for to cover. The first is from the accountancy side, we are not employers. We cannot be seen to pay taxes local taxes on behalf of employees because we're not employees, we're all self-employed. And in terms of LinkedIn, if a company is paying for your LinkedIn license, should you want to leave, your data retains with the company. So what we do instead is we increase that 75% by a further 2.5% at the end of your first year, which goes directly back to you, which allows you to cover, you can use it for what you want, but it's predominantly there to cover your LinkedIn and your accountancy fees.
And that makes total sense. I think there's a big discussion there about retaining contacts and data and all that kind of stuff, but that makes total sense. You said there, like you're not the employer, that everyone is self-employed. So is there a contract in place?
Yeah, so everybody has a contract with Van Kaizen. It's exactly the same contract with everybody. And that contract stipulates things like if you want to leave, you can leave at any time. Take your clients, take your candidates with you. They're yours. We don't own them. We want you to be here because you want to be here, not because you feel obliged to or forced to. And I think this is something that so many recruitment agencies tie you in. If you leave, you can't do this, you can't do that. That's not our philosophy or our ethos. We want it to work. And if it doesn't work, which will happen at times, then we want to make it as hassle-free and be as helpful as possible to those individuals.
I'm just thinking there where you said about like operating in all these different geographies. Is there different like legal requirements or licensing, or how does that work? Who looks after that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There can be licensing requirements for recruitment in various countries, a little bit like real estate. Some countries it doesn't apply. In other countries it does apply. So what we will do is we'll do our background research to ensure that if there is a license requirement, we inform the recruiter of exactly what they need to go through. In our experience, a license in the countries that do require a license, it's relatively straightforward. It's more of a kind of advert to say I'm doing recruiting, but we will talk you through what we understand is required to help help anybody through that process.
Is that the same with like insurances and that kind of
Insurance is different, actually. So insurance with Van Kaizen covers insurance. I think we have up to 2 million public liability insurance, so recruiters are covered on that sense. Our whole idea was, how do we take away every detail, every granular responsibility that you would have as a business owner? And it was only, as I mentioned, the accountancy and LinkedIn that we couldn't, but also I don't think recruiters wanted us to do that. We wanted our consultants to be able to say, no, I own my own data, thank you. And so we put a plan in play for that. One thing that may be of interest, and this is, I think, interesting, we've seen some of the highest billers make their money purely using Recruiter Lite. I think there's this general conception that you have to have the all singing, all dancing, super expensive LinkedIn. You don't. We've seen people do well in excess of £500,000-600,000 purely on Recruiter Lite. I think a lot of people coming from large scale agencies go, I need that all singing, all dancing. It depends the amount you want to make, and there's no doubt that, of course, it would be it's helpful and it's great to streamline the process, but you can make extremely good money using their kind of their mid-tier product, Recruiter Lite.
I'll go one step further. I've seen recruiters use a free, unpaid for LinkedIn license, and if you've got a mature network and a well-cultivated network, I think you can do great things without paying for it at all. I won't go into my opinion on the monopoly that LinkedIn has over our industry, but you're absolutely right. You don't need the all singing, all dancing, certainly to get started with. You mentioned there about the freedom that people have, or you have mentioned about the freedom that people have. Is there like a set, you've got to work this many hours? Like, it can't be a side hustle, can it? That's definitely not what this is.
Yeah, it's definitely not a side hustle. We are all fully invested in this, and that was really important for us. We had many people over the years say, can I come and do this part-time? And the reality is that everybody who's joined has made that commitment to make this their full focus, and to have a business where you have some people half in and half out, I don't think that would work, and it's not what we want. And I think also for my clients, I say my clients, for everyone's individual clients, we want to know, a client wants to know someone's fully committed and they're fully vested and there. So no, it's not a half in, half out setup. And to answer your question, no one ever tells you how you should work, where you should work from, the hours you need to work. Interestingly, it's actually quite daunting, I think. I think for a lot of people, it's like, my gosh, no one's calling me up. Yeah. No one is chasing me, and there is I find the first week or two is kind of an, getting used to that environment. But our belief is super simple. We are results driven, maybe the most results driven recruitment firm out there, because if we don't make placements, we don't put food on the table. It's as black and white, and maybe as brutal as that. So it's not about how people telling us how to do, how to recruit and where to recruit from. It's about us getting results in a way that works for us. So someone says, I want to see my son play football on a Friday afternoon. You go for it. Absolutely. In fact, that's one of the greatest things about this business, is that no one dictates when you can't be part of something. You get to manage that schedule how you want. And so the things in life that are of great quality and value to you, you get to experience.
Something that just occurred to me there, and it was just a thought. You were saying that, it was, where do the terms of business come into this? In terms of, like, if I'm the recruiter, are there terms in place? Do I have to use the Van Kaizen? This is the set template. Can I flex on that? How does that bit play out? Yeah,
so we have a set terms of business. They're 2 pages. We've used them over the last 6 years. They are brilliant, and they are there as your template. However, recruiters can and will adjust key parts of those dependent on the client that they're dealing with. So the most standard parts that are adjusted are guarantee period, fees. Sometimes people ask for extended payment terms. There are other questions clients might ask, but those are your key ones. And we have the most brilliant legal chap inside the business who is not only there to advise you, but will help write the emails back. It's not just a question of, oh, well, do this and this. I find that quite overwhelming. He will say, this is okay. This really you don't want to adjust. This is the best response. This is how I would do it. So, and he's fantastic. And he is there kind of on hand for any legal questions, legal support. And we by and large find the terms business, they're really easy for clients to understand and see. You've got these 2 pages. There's no fine print hidden. It's very clear for all parties to see. Yeah, I think that's an area that I think we're really proud of, actually, in the speed in which clients do sign and the support so consultants aren't left on their own. Yeah. So
I just want to be clear here. So I'm the recruiter and I speak to a client and they say, well, actually, we can only work at 15% and we have to have 30-day payment terms and we want a 3-month or 6-month rebate period. I'm okay to agree to that, am I?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You decide the fees that you want to work on with your clients. We don't traditionally go below a certain threshold in order to protect the brand value, but it is ultimately your choice. And that's the same with the rebate you mentioned there, 6-month rebate. If you wanted to do that, but you have every right to do that. I would, if you were asking me, I would say, that's super extensive. I don't think that's fair. Let's find a halfway house. This is the response I would give. But again, you have legal support on hand who will write these beautifully crafted emails that are not just, this is our position, that's it. It will say, let me explain to you why that wouldn't be a fair shared sense of responsibility, which is what it is. We don't have any control over a placement after it's made. The onus on the retention of the employee has to be with the employer, not the recruiter, the third party who no longer is involved. But there is a give and take here.
I think that's probably worth looking at as well. So what happens if there is a rebate? Obviously, I'm earning a sizable chunk for making the placement as the recruiter. What happens if there's a rebate?
So traditionally in the terms business, it's find a free replacement candidate within a fixed period of time. But let's say, for example, you've signed a client who said, we want to have a financial return, which some clients will say, if you can't find somebody, that's fine, but I want a financial return percentage based on whenever the candidate left or we terminated them. This is important because our philosophy is we want to protect your relationship with the client. So Van Kaizen will step in, will settle that rebate directly with the client, and then speak to the consultant to say, hey, we obviously need to recoup that back from you. How do we look to do that? Whether we offset that from future placements or we set up a payment plan. The whole focus here is that in that situation, you, the recruiter, owe the client money. It's a substantial amount that can have a big impact on a recruiter. Van Kaizen will settle that in order to protect your relationship and then touch base with you directly to work out the best means of repayment.
That's more than fair. That's proper support, right? So I suppose the question I thought of then as you were saying that, so when does the recruiter get paid? Again, I'll put myself in their shoes. I make the placement as the recruiter. I've agreed 30-day payment terms. Yeah. Is it pay when paid? Like how does that bit work?
So on the applicant tracking system, we have everything clearly visible. The day the candidate starts with the client, the Van Kaizen operations finance team will send an invoice to the client. The client has 14-day payment terms, and they will work incredibly hard to make sure those payments are paid within 14 days, which I don't know if anyone's gone out there on their own. That can be unbelievably challenging, and also a very difficult conversation where I'm saying, Jamie, pay your invoice, and can I work your head of product? It's like, so they will take care of that. So you do not need to ever chase. You never ever need to have that awkward conversation. The moment the money is received to Van Kaizen, we, the recruiters, are paid pretty much immediately. It's normally within three hours. It's immediately directly into your bank account in your local currency. And that's all over the world. I like to describe it as a military operation. And I think that is a good way to describe it. There's a sense of reliability, speed, safety. The Van Kaizen back office team are second to none. And I know people say, they are really great. Our finance director was the finance director at a £1 million, multi-million pound property business. The chap who runs our strategy and legal was Oxford University. They are incredibly switched on, really decent, but really hot shit at what they do. Yeah. And that's what you need, because as a recruiter, I'm not in those areas. That's not me. I'm not great in those areas. I'm good at the recruitment side. So I need partners I can rely on to manage that periphery that comes with setting up a business that is not my core skill set.
Maybe that's worth tapping into. So what is your, and I kind of know this because as we were walking up to the studio today, I saw you in flow at your core skill set. So what's the bit that you do? What do people get from you?
So for me, it's the recruitment side. And so that kind of splits business development. How can I help you build out your client base? You're not alone. This is key to building out a business. You have that client base. How can I show you how I do it? How can we replicate that? That is kind of at the top. The second is troubleshooting. Often there are various questions that are non-legal, non-financial. Those would go to the operations team that are, this situation's occurred. How would we best navigate this? That is my forte. Okay, have we tried this? Let's look at this approach. Okay, let's take a bit of a wild approach, but this could work. And I'll take that step further. I'll craft the email. It won't just be a phone call to be like, well, why don't you say this? Let me actually write this and put this into a setup that I think will get you a result. The collaboration, really important for me, that it's obviously I have my own clients and I use the services of Kaizen like everyone else. And as much as I collaborate with people in the group, I want love for other people to collaborate as well. And because I want them to see the value. This isn't just it's a nice idea. I want people to understand, recruiters who join to understand the value of this network effect, not just the passive income, but the ability to remove the level of stress and that comes with being out there on your own. That's why we're here. And so my job is to look at where people can collaborate on different roles and connect them internally. So business development, troubleshooting, internal collaboration, and I'm always there for tips and tricks.
This all sounds great, but I'm sure there's people that join and it's just not for them. They're like, this isn't the right move. I need someone to tell me what to do and when to do it and how to do it. I don't know, whatever their reasons might be, right? Then what happens? You kind of alluded to it earlier, like you keep your clients in your network, and how does the breakup work? Because this gets really messy inside a traditional recruitment business.
It gets so messy. And I think also there's a real unethical approach a lot of recruitment agencies have, which is non-compete, non-solicitation. You can't talk to these people. You're leaving. It's like a personal kind of insult. It's not going to work for everyone. It's not. And that's okay. There are two things here. Is that if there is a point where someone says, I need that structure, I need to be in an office. We don't do an office, everyone's remote. Or I'm simply just not making money. I've given it a go. I met some lovely people, but this isn't working. That's okay. We want to make that transition as easy as possible. The first thing I would say to someone is, let me try and help you find a job, right? That's what we do in the first instance. But any client that you've signed is yours, and it's yours to take with you. We do not own those clients. So whilst they sign Kaizen terms, and all clients that we have underneath the Kaizen terms, which allows the finance guys to do what they do, that means that if they get a pushback, they know exactly what the terms are, they know it inside out. But whilst everyone's under the Kaizen terms, they're your client. They're not Kaizen's, and your candidates are your candidates. So if you want to leave, you can leave at any point. We will make it as hassle-free as possible. And if you would like to take your clients, you have every right to do so. They're yours, as are the candidates that you've put on the system.
Are there any questions? I'm sharing the questions that I've been asked about your business and your model. Is there anything that I've missed, or maybe someone that's asked me? What's a different question that you get?
I've had been approached about a question previously which says that, can I do this as around another job, so more of a kind of a side hustle, and we've said no. We said everyone here has made a full-time commitment or a full commitment to be part of this as their primary focus, and we don't want to split that up with half a business committed and the other half jumping in and out. All clients sign terms of business under Kaizen. And we do that, there's a GDPR point, but the primary focus is that all the finance and legal guys are there to protect you. And by having all clients under one set of terms, we know that we know those terms inside out, and their job to get that invoice paid and to get you paid can be taken care of. So it's all under one setup.
If your business focus is recruitment, it all has to be through Kaizen. We can't be doing a little bit over here with another firm and gun for hire for another recruitment firm over here. That's all be through there. But I just want to be really clear. If every Christmas I make cookies and sell them at a local fare, that's probably okay, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely, exactly right, Jamie. Yeah.
Is there anything else that we've missed?
The passive income streams, it's difficult to explain it without being inside the group, but if I can present it like this, as a solo recruiter out there in the market, these do not exist or extremely hard to exist. And I'm going to give you bullet points on these 5 areas. The first is fees. Often solo recruiters get cut down on fees. You're an individual. You do not have that with a brand behind you. The ability to open up international doors. It's one thing opening up doors with your local businesses around you and some friends and people you've worked with. But if you want to take that as a London-based recruiter and open up a similar business in New York, that's extremely challenging without having an international brand behind you. That brand opens up client doors. Third is the ability to work roles when you have roles to work on when you're quiet. So in that period, especially at the beginning when you're signing and building out your client base, we have between 80 and 100 roles available for you to pick up and work on, which gives you the chance of bringing money in whilst you're doing that kind of critical BD piece. The ability to have a network behind you to work on roles if you're busy. And then sharing of candidates, the 5th passive income. For every rejected candidate that you share or any new candidate you bring in, you put on the system, if that candidate is placed, you will take commission on that. So to recap those 5 passive income streams, and by the way, I put that into monetary terms, it accounts for around 62% of the placements inside the business, which are collaborative. And that means it falls under one of those 5 pillars. It's either a candidate that has been shared, it's either working on roles when you are quiet, or having roles to work on when you're quiet, having a legion, an army behind you when you're busy to support any roles, to maintain strong fees with clients, and to open up new businesses with an international brand. Those are your 5 core pillars within inside the network that do not exist as an individual 1-2 person business.
Cosmo, thank you so much for sharing all this today. I suppose just to close off then, anyone that's listened to maybe the first episode, or maybe they've just listened to this and they probably need to go back and listen to the first episode. What's the next steps? How does someone get in touch?
Of course, I can be contacted directly on LinkedIn, but we also have our website. So it's vankaizen.com, and there is a tab. There are only 3 tabs on a super simple website, so join us. There's an online calculator in there as well, which will tell you this is what, based on your personal, what you've invoiced over the last year, this is what you would look to take home at Van Kaizen. If that's of interest, go check out the website, put your details in, we'll have a call, I'll talk you through what we are, what we're not, and if there's a resonance, we'll take you through an interview process.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me back, Jamie.